Soft classical music played faintly in the background. Dr. Cruz's voice was heavy with regret as he faced the man seated across from him. "We're deeply sorry to inform you, sir," he began, "but there was a mix-up in the Excel files handled by my staff. The egg cell meant for Miss Abby, the one we implanted, was mistakenly switched with your late wife's egg cell. It turns out Abby is the biological mother of the triplets." James Saldivar's face went rigid. "What are you saying? That Abby, she's the biological mother?" "I'm very sorry, sir," the doctor said, voice trembling. "I just discovered the mistake after reviewing the team's work. If you wish to file charges, we fully accept the consequences. This is entirely my fault. I failed to supervise my staff properly when it came to handling the files." Abigail's breath caught in her throat as she listened from the corner of the room. Her entire body stiffened with tension. James Saldivar, the billionaire, was the father of the triplets she carried. She was supposed to be their surrogate, nothing more. He paid her $10 million to carry his and his late wife's children after his wife passed away. But now everything had changed. Her egg cell had been mistakenly used. "Let me think about this first," James growled, standing abruptly. "But don't expect me to let this go, Doctor. Cruz, it was my late wife, Marie, who wanted these children. I agreed to all of this for her. And now you're telling me the egg implanted in that woman wasn't hers?" He glared at Abby, his eyes sharp and accusing. She looked away, swallowing hard. She was used to this kind of treatment from James. He never once treated her kindly, not even when they first signed the contract. Still, she didn't care if people called her a martyr. It was her love for James that led her to agree to be his surrogate. She had loved him from afar for years, even before he married Marie. But when he chose someone else, she lost hope. That is, until 2 years ago, when Marie died from leukemia just a year into their marriage. James had never moved on. His grief made him cold and distant, so when she heard he was seeking a surrogate, she volunteered. He agreed, but under one condition. After giving birth, she would leave the children with him and disappear. It broke her heart, but she accepted. It was the only thing she could give the man she loved. She made her plan. After the birth, she'd return to the countryside and use the money to build a small house. That was her future. But now everything had unraveled. Her egg had been used, which meant the triplets were hers. "I can't express how sorry I am," Dr. Cruz repeated. "Leave us," James ordered. The doctor quickly exited the room. They were in James Saldivar's mansion, where Abby had been living due to the sensitivity of her pregnancy. She needed round-the-clock monitoring, but now James stood before her, livid. "This was your plan all along, wasn't it?" he snapped. "You set this up from the start." Abby blinked back tears. "That's not true. I didn't know they used my egg cell." "Oh, spare me," he sneered. "You've been in love with me for years. You probably switched the files yourself to trick me." "You're wrong," she said quietly, her voice cracking. "I would never do that to your wife. Or to you." James stared at her, unmoved. "I didn't ask for this," she continued, blinking rapidly as tears welled up in her eyes. "If I could undo it, I would. If I could go back and make sure Marie's egg was used, I would." He scoffed, his expression cold. "Don't cry in front of me. I'm not moved by your tears." "I'm not crying for pity," Abby whispered, wiping her cheeks. "I'm used to being treated like this." James stepped closer, anger still radiating from him. "You'll never replace her. Marie is the only woman I'll ever love." "I know," she said. "You don't have to keep reminding me. But don't worry. Once I give birth, I'll leave. Just like I promised. You'll never have to see me again. Not even the triplets, my children, will keep me here." A bitter grin spread across James's face. "Good." He turned and stormed out. From outside the room, they heard the pleading voice of the doctor's assistant. James had threatened to have them arrested for the error. Abby wiped away her tears again, but a sharp pain suddenly cut through her stomach. "Ah!" she gasped. She tried to stand but fell back as the pain intensified. A warm liquid ran down her leg. Looking down, her face turned pale. Blood. Oh, God! Her vision swam. The last thing she heard was the sound of the door bursting open and James yelling her name. James stood frozen in the doorway, watching as the doctor rushed into the room behind him. "My babies, they can't be harmed," James muttered, voice cracking with panic. Even as Abby lay unconscious, slipping into danger, James didn't think about her pain. Only the children, only the triplets. As the doctor moved swiftly to examine her, Abby slowly regained consciousness. The blurred ceiling sharpened. Around her were the concerned faces of the Saldivers, especially James's mother, whose expression was filled with worry. "Thank God you're awake, Abby," the older woman said softly. "Tita." Abby's voice was weak, barely audible. This woman, James's mother, had once changed Abby's life. Abby came from a broken family, abandoned by both parents, and left in the care of relatives. As a child, she once sold rice cakes for an aunt and crossed paths with this kind-hearted woman who took pity on her and offered to sponsor her education. From that point on, Abby had spent school breaks helping out in the Saldivar household as a way to repay their kindness. That was how she met James. Even then, he was cold and distant, but Abby couldn't help how she felt about him. "Are you feeling any pain?" the older woman asked. "No, Mom," Abby replied faintly. "Thank goodness," she said. "The triplets are strong. That's why your pregnancy is so sensitive." Abby smiled faintly. The babies were safe. That was all that mattered to her now. Over the past few months, she had grown to love them deeply. "We also found out how badly the doctor mishandled the surrogacy," the older woman continued. "Our whole family is taking steps to investigate, and they might even lose their license." Abby bit her lip. It was true. The damage was severe. James had paid a fortune to make the process perfect, only for such a disastrous mistake to occur. "I'm so sorry you got caught in this mess," she added. "James has probably taken it out on you. He's under a lot of pressure lately. Business has been tough, and he's also been preoccupied looking for his cousin Gabriel." Abby nodded. "I understand, Tata." A month ago, James's two cousins had been in a car accident. One of them, Leon, had sustained serious injuries but was recovering. Gabriel, however, had gone missing after the car plunged into a river during a drunken joyride. With Gabriel gone, Gabriel, the heir to the Saldivar Corporation's top company, everyone was on edge. "Oh, I almost forgot," the older woman said. "I asked Anasita to prepare some food downstairs. You need to eat and keep your strength up so this doesn't happen again." Abby smiled politely. How could she explain that it was her son who was the cause of all her stress? Moments later, the head maid arrived with a tray. "Ma'am, here's your food. Sir James is on his way up." Abby's heart started racing again, and sure enough, within minutes, James entered the room, still in his casual cap and attire. "Are the babies safe?" he asked, barely glancing at her. She nodded quietly. "Good," he said, already turning to leave. "Wait," his mother interjected. "Aren't you going to ask Abby how she's doing?" "She's a grown woman, Ma," James replied coldly. "She can take care of herself. If she hadn't stressed herself out, this wouldn't have happened. My children almost got hurt." "They're your children too," Abby thought bitterly, but she held her tongue. "You shouldn't be like this, James," his mother said. "At least show concern for the mother of your children." "She's not the mother of my children." "In your mind, maybe. But biologically, she is. Whether you like it or not, Abby is their mother." Oh, come on, James, his mother sighed. Marie's been gone for 2 years. Let her go. James's jaw clenched at her words. Easy for you to say. You didn't love her. Abby felt a knife twist in her chest. His words pierced her deeply. They pressured you into marrying Marie, didn't they? His mother pressed. They tied you to her because they knew she didn't have long to live. They hid her illness from you. They did it for the money, James. Mom, James warned, voice low and seething. I'm sorry, she said, backing down. I let my emotions get the better of me. James slammed the door as he left. The room fell silent. Oh my goodness, his mother said, after a moment. I'm really sorry if I've added to your stress, dear. I just couldn't stop myself. It's okay, Tita, Abby said quietly. Would you like me to feed you? She offered. No, I'm okay now. All right, I'll step out and get some fresh air. You need to rest. Abby watched the older woman's back as she left the room. Alone again, she gently stroked her swollen belly. Hang in there, my babies, she whispered. We're going to get through this. As the days passed, Abby's condition improved significantly. She could go out again, and from time to time, when she felt bored, she would visit the nearby nature park to get some fresh air. She often brought a book with her and lost track of time while reading. One afternoon, she became so absorbed in her book that she forgot about lunch. Oh no, James will be mad if he finds out I skipped a meal again, she muttered with a grimace, standing up quickly. And right on cue, James appeared, irritated, with a food container in hand. Why are you so stubborn, huh? Didn't I tell you not to skip meals? You're not carrying just one baby in there, Abigail, he snapped. I'm sorry, I got carried away reading, she mumbled. I was looking all over for you. You didn't answer your phone. I nearly called 911, he said. She bit her lower lip, guilt washing over her. Other people at the park glanced in their direction, mostly at James. His tall frame, handsome face, and commanding presence drew attention wherever he went. I really am sorry, Abby said sheepishly. It won't happen again. Hand me the food. You made this for me? Don't flatter yourself. It's for the babies. Still, he smiled faintly. For once, Abby didn't feel intimidated by his scolding. Maybe it was the peaceful surroundings, or maybe it was the warmth in his tone, something she wasn't used to hearing from him. They're my babies too, she teased. James narrowed his eyes but didn't protest. They sat down on the grass mat, and Abby eagerly dug into the food. This is delicious, she said. He stayed quiet, watching her eat the chicken and vegetable soup he'd brought. She was so engrossed that she didn't notice a grain of rice stuck on the corner of her lip, or the few grains tangled in her hair. You eat like a pig, James muttered. She froze. That's offensive. I mean it. You eat like a pig. She rolled her eyes. So you're saying your triplets are little piglets too? James quickly covered his mouth, suppressing a smirk. One eyebrow arched upward. Why are you dragging my kids into your mess? You're pushing it, she warned. Do you want me to skip eating again and starve your babies? Just eat, but slow down, he replied. His tone was rough, but the edge was gone. Yes, sir, she said playfully. He continued watching her, his gaze fixed. She still had no idea the rice was still clinging to her lip. Impatient, James finally leaned forward and wiped it away himself. What are you doing? She asked, startled. Relax. You had rice on your lip, you pig. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She glanced around and caught a few bystanders staring at them with playful smiles. Ugh, they probably think you're sweet, someone whispered nearby. Her husband is so handsome. James didn't hear a word. He just kept observing her silently. Abby, he called out again when she was done. She looked up. Yes. You haven't changed your mind, have you? She blinked. Changed my mind about what? About keeping the babies. Her eyes dropped to the ground. So that was why he'd been looking for her. He was afraid she'd run away, that she'd changed her mind after the egg cell revelation. I know the doctors messed up, and you probably feel differently now, he continued. But just so you remember, you've already been paid. You no longer have any rights over them. Abby swallowed hard, her throat tightening as fresh tears threatened. I understand, she replied softly. You don't have to worry. Once I give birth, I'll leave. Just like we agreed. You can even increase the payment if it'll ease your mind. You don't need to do that, she added quickly. You've already paid me more than enough. I'm still planning to return to the countryside after I give birth. Saying it out loud made her chest ache. It felt like she was selling her children. If the doctors hadn't made a mistake, letting go might have been easier. But now? And what will you do once you're back in the countryside? James asked. I'll build a small house, and if I find a man to love, I'll marry him and start a family of my own. That thought nearly choked her. How could she do that now, when she already knew she loved only one man? Stupid heart. No matter how often James hurt her, her heart refused to learn. Well, that's good to hear, James said. Let's head home. It's getting late. They walked back quietly. The sudden shift in James's demeanor confused her, but Abby knew better than to believe it would last. More days passed. Abby's belly had noticeably grown. She was now 6 months pregnant and could feel the triplets moving inside her. Good morning, my babies, she whispered one morning, her hands gently cradling her bump. The babies responded with a soft kick, making her smile. Why are you so hyper when it's just the 4 of us, huh? But when your daddy's around, you go quiet. She pouted playfully. She remembered the first time she felt them kick. She had run to tell James excitedly, only for the babies to stop moving the moment he touched her belly. It left her embarrassed and unsure. Don't you like your daddy? She asked. Do you like me more? Another movement, another kick. Oh, you little rascals, she giggled. You already have favorites before you're even born. How could I ever forget you? Her eyes brimmed with tears. Ever since she got pregnant, she had become overly emotional, crying at the smallest things. I'm sorry if I have to leave you after you're born. I'm just your surrogate. Your daddy already has someone he truly loved. I'm not meant to stay with you. She sniffled and wiped her eyes. But don't worry. Your grandma and aunts will be there for you. They're good people. Abby stood, startled to find James's mother behind her. Is your decision final? The older woman asked. Abby's shoulders dropped. Yes, Mom. It's heartbreaking, really. You're their biological mother, and yet you'll be separated from them. That's how it's supposed to be, Abby replied softly. I signed a contract. James paid me. I have no claim over them. The older woman looked at her kindly. But you've liked James for a long time, haven't you? I've always known. I never judged you for it. Abby's face flushed with embarrassment. She didn't think anyone had noticed her feelings, least of all Tanton, James's mother. I've known you since you were a child, Abby. I can tell when someone has feelings for my son, she said gently. So I want to ask you, what if you tried again? What if you fought for what you feel? Not just for you, but for the babies too. Tita, James doesn't feel the same. He's indifferent to me. Try, she said, placing a hand on Abby's shoulder. And if you do, I'll support you. Abby didn't know what came over her, but she nodded. Hope sparked in her heart again, thanks to the woman's encouragement. Oh, and remember that nightwear I used to win over James's father, the woman said suddenly, pulling out a silky red nightgown. Use it tonight. Maybe it'll work on him too. Tita, Abby gasped, laughing nervously. Go try it on, the older woman urged. Abby hesitated, but eventually went into her room and slipped into the gown. Surprisingly, it still fit over her baby bump. She even added some lip gloss and let her hair down. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "Just look casual." She posed awkwardly on the bed, struggling to find a comfortable yet attractive position. A few minutes later, she heard familiar footsteps outside. The door opened. James walked in, wearing a long-sleeved shirt, and instantly froze. "What are you doing?" he asked, eyes narrowing. "Why are you dressed like that?" Abby blinked, startled. I was hot earlier, so I changed. Is it bad?" James crossed his arms. "Of all the colors, why red? You look like a walking battery." Her jaw dropped. That had to be the most humiliating thing he'd ever said to her. "I'll change," she said, flustered. "I'm sorry." She practically ran into the walk-in closet, face burning with shame. She had been so confident earlier, only to be insulted by the man she loved. When she came back out, James was seated on the sofa, waiting. "That outfit is much better," he commented. She was now wearing a blouse and a long skirt. She rolled her eyes. "What brings you here anyway?" "Mum's calling you. Dinner's ready." So that was it. Another failed attempt. He didn't even suspect the real reason he was asked to fetch her. "Oh, Abby, what happened to our plan?" James's mum asked as soon as they reached the dining room. "Why the change of clothes?" "Tita, I'm sorry. James hated the way I looked. He said I looked like a red battery," she pouted. "That boy, really," she muttered. "So my magical nightwear didn't work?" Even the older woman seemed disappointed. During dinner, James ate quietly, oblivious to the setup. His mother wasn't giving up yet. "I've got another idea," she whispered to Abby with a wink. Abby smiled awkwardly. At this point, she wasn't sure anything would work on James. "Try this lipstick," James's mother said cheerfully, holding out a tube of velvet red shade. "It's the same one I used to make James's father fall head over heels for me. Maybe it'll work for you too." Abby gave a hesitant smile. "All right." She applied it before their next doctor's visit. The original doctor had resigned, fearing legal consequences over the egg cell incident. A new one had been assigned, and today was their first appointment. Standing outside, waiting for the car, Abby rubbed her belly gently. "Let's hope this works," she whispered. One of the babies kicked in response, making her laugh. "Do you think Daddy will finally notice, Mommy?" But as soon as she entered the car, James raised an eyebrow. "Seriously, Abigail? What made you wear that shade of lipstick? You look like a witch." "I just like it," she replied stubbornly, looking away. James shook his head and focused on the road, muttering something she couldn't hear. Days passed. Nothing seemed to work, not even perfume. James remained unchanged. "I don't think my son is going to fall for any of this," his mother said with a sigh. "He's just too picky." Abby patted her belly and exhaled deeply. 2 weeks of trying, and still nothing. "I wonder what Marie did to win him over," she said aloud one day. "You don't think she used a love potion or something, do you?" "Tita, I don't think Marie was that kind of person," Abby replied, though she knew something others didn't. She had once seen Marie enter and leave a hotel with another man, while still married to James. Abby kept it to herself. She couldn't bear to ruin the image James had of his late wife. She cheated on him, she thought, but he loved her anyway. "That's enough trying for now," James's mother eventually said. "If nothing's going to work, then maybe it's just not meant to be." "Maybe," Abby replied softly. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, James decided to take a swim in the mansion's pool. It was his day off, and the heat was stifling. He dove in and swam several laps, then climbed out and walked toward the lounge chair to grab his whiskey. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed someone hiding behind the plants. Abby. "She's still at it, huh?" He smirked. For 2 weeks, he'd pretended not to notice her little schemes. Her clothes, her makeup, her awkward flirtations. He saw them all, and he intentionally crushed every single one. He lay back on the lounger, abs exposed, and said to himself, "Let's see what you try next." He had to admit, she looked stunning that first night in red. It stirred something in him, and lately, seeing her in tight clothes that hugged her baby bump gave him unexpected chills. She was sexy, radiant, and real. Then she did something he didn't expect. She stepped out and dove into the pool. "What the hell is she doing?" he muttered, rushing to the edge. "You might hurt yourself. You're due in 2 months," he called out, watching her swim. "Swimming isn't forbidden during pregnancy," she said, floating on her back. "It's even encouraged to ease labor. Still, be careful. I can't risk anything happening to my babies." "I can take care of myself and them, James." He didn't respond, but kept his eyes on her. The roundness of her stomach rose above the surface of her swimsuit, catching the light. He didn't know why, but the sight did something to him, something he couldn't shake. She looked powerful, magnetic, beautiful. Without thinking, he approached the water's edge. Then suddenly, he stepped into the pool and swam to her. Abby gasped when he came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her from behind. "James?" "Don't move," he said quietly. "Stay still." His breath was deep, slow, controlled. His hand slid down to her belly. One of the babies kicked. He startled slightly, eyes widening. "They moved," Abby whispered in awe. "This is the first time they moved while you were here." James nodded silently, his hand still resting on her belly. "They're alive. They're healthy," he said softly, a small smile breaking through. Abby looked up at him, eyes shining. "They seem happy," she said. "Yeah," he replied, keeping his hand where it was. The babies kicked again, like they knew he was there. Her joy was contagious. James found himself staring at her face. No blemishes, no scars, just soft, radiant beauty. "They're kicking again," she said, grabbing his hand and pressing it back to her belly. James felt it, a full, strong kick. Abby's heart swelled at the look on his face. "They already love you," she whispered, "and you love them too, don't you?" He didn't answer, but his smile was all she needed. From that moment on, James was in an unusually good mood. He stayed that way for days. It surprised Abby. She had assumed that nothing would ever work, that he'd never soften toward her, but it seemed the babies had done what her plans couldn't. "James has been in a good mood this week," James's mother observed with a grin. "So, tell me, did our plan finally work?" "I'm not sure, Tita," Abby replied honestly. She wasn't certain if his good mood was because of the babies, or because his cousin Gabriel had finally returned. The whole Saldivar family had been overjoyed at Gabriel's reappearance. For months, they feared the worst. He had been missing since the accident. To celebrate his safe return, the family hosted a grand party. But the real surprise came when Gabriel revealed that he had secretly gotten married. "You met his wife, right?" the older woman asked Abby. "Is she nice?" "Yes, Mom. Annalisa's very kind." "It's so nice to see the cousins all starting families. I hope you'll be part of that too, Abby." Abby bit her lip, unsure what to say. She didn't want to get her hopes up. Just then, James walked in. "You're home early," his mother said. "Everything okay?" "Can I borrow Abby for a bit, Mom?" "Is there a checkup today? I thought she already had one." "She did. I just want to take her shopping, for baby stuff." Abby's eyes widened in shock. Was she hearing this right? Even his mother looked stunned. "Well, I won't recommend a store better than our own malls," she said teasingly. James smiled faintly. His mother's excitement made him nostalgic. His father had passed 10 years ago, and it had just been the two of them since. Seeing her happy again brought him comfort. As for Abby, she felt like she was floating. Was this a dream? "Where do you want to shop?" he asked as they got into the car. "Anywhere," she replied, still dazed. They drove to one of the Saldivar-owned malls. When they arrived, James made a quick call. "I already talked to Lucas. He's handing the whole mall over for our use today, so you can pick out anything you want, for the babies and for yourself." Lucas was one of James's cousins, in charge of managing the Saldivar mall empire. "Wait, what? You had the entire mall closed? For me?" "It's more convenient," James said simply. "I know you're shy around crowds." Her mouth parted slightly. How did he know that? She had never told him, but he was right. She was painfully shy, especially when she felt watched. "Don't overthink it," he added. She nodded and stepped out of the car. Inside, they were greeted by a line of employees. "Good day, ma'am, sir," they chorused. "Good day," Abby said quietly, trying to hide her embarrassment. As they browsed through shelves of baby clothes, 3 salesladies trailed behind them. "Sir James is so handsome," one of them whispered, "and he looks so gentle now." "Maybe he's excited about becoming a dad," another replied. "You think that woman is his wife?" "No way. His wife passed away. That woman's just the surrogate. He paid her to carry the babies." Abby's chest tightened. The words stung. She had no idea why she felt so affected. "What color do you want, blue or pink?" James asked, snapping her out of her thoughts. Whatever. We don't know the genders yet," she said softly. James narrowed his eyes at her, noting the change in her demeanor. "Are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine. Keep going." "You're not okay. We can stop if you're feeling tired." "I'm fine, really," she insisted, but her head was spinning. Her throat felt tight. She could barely breathe. James said something else, but she didn't hear it. Everything was starting to fade. "Hey, Abby, can you hear me? Are you okay?" he asked, alarmed. Her breathing became shallow. She grabbed his arm, then collapsed against him. "Shit!" James cursed, lifting her into his arms. The employees panicked. Even the salesladies who had been gossiping earlier were frozen in shock. Hey, don't sleep. Stay with me. I'll take you to the hospital," James pleaded. "No need," Abby whispered. "I just need some air." "You sure?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Yes, please." Without hesitation, James turned toward the elevator and took her up to the rooftop. As they stepped out, the cool breeze wrapped around them. Abby leaned into his chest, finally able to breathe. He guided her to a bench overlooking the skyline, the setting sun casting an orange glow across her face. She said nothing for a while. "You're so fragile," he finally murmured. "Whenever something like this happens, I don't know what to do. I feel like I might lose my whole world." "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to worry you." "Abby," he said, turning to her. She looked up. "Why do you always say sorry? Why do you always act like everything's your fault?" "Because it's all I know how to do. It's the only way I can make up for everything. Look at me." She hesitated, then lifted her gaze. His eyes were filled with emotion, fear, guilt, confusion. "Do you still see me as a heartless man?" he asked. "Aren't you?" she replied softly. "At least, when it comes to me. Have I hurt you that much?" Abby looked away. "If that's true, then I must be the reason for everything you're going through, inside and out." She was stunned. She had never imagined that James would say something like this. Was he finally changing? "You know," James said quietly, eyes still locked on hers. "I've waited a long time to say all of that. I know. I've hurt you, and I'm sorry." Abby's lips parted, but no words came. Her heart pounded. "I've forgiven you so many times, James," she whispered, "but I know I'll never take Marie's place in your heart. I know I never had a place there to begin with." "What if I told you there's still a place for you, that there always has been?" Abby let out a soft, awkward laugh. "You're joking, right?" But her words were cut off when James leaned in and kissed her. Her eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing?" she gasped. "Shh," he murmured. "I've changed my mind. Let's make this real. You're not just the surrogate of my children. You're their biological mum. You're the woman I want." "Is this real?" she asked, eyes brimming. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of joy. James kissed her again, and Abby returned it, overwhelmed with emotion. They returned to the mansion with light hearts. Abby couldn't stop smiling, her heart pounding with a mix of disbelief and happiness. When James's mother, Felicia, heard the news, she was thrilled. She called the other Saldivar women right away to share it. A new month came, and with it, preparations for the baby shower. It wasn't originally part of the plan, but with things changing between James and Abby, Felicia insisted on having one, especially since the triplets would be the firstborns of the next Saldivar generation. "Congrats on the baby shower, Abby." "Thank you, Anna. It was unexpected. We all thought at least one would be a girl, but they're all boys." When the 3 giant balloons were popped, only blue confetti fell. Abby was elated. James, though he had hoped for a girl or two, wasn't disappointed. He already loved them dearly, regardless. "So now James has 3 juniors," a cousin joked. "Looks like you're next to have kids, Gabriel." Felicia teased. "I think my wife's not ready yet, Tita." "If not you, then maybe Eddie, Noah, or Aaron." "Tita," someone chimed in, "maybe you should ask your son Lucas first. He might already have 3 kids out there we don't know about." "Hey," Lucas protested, "don't give Mom any ideas. She'll scold me again." "Can you blame us? You're the biggest playboy of all." "What if Noah already has twins? We just don't know yet." The cousins burst into laughter while Noah scowled. "You guys are insane," he grumbled. James joined the group, chuckling, and slung an arm around Noah. "Why are you all blaming Noah? He's the most uptight guy here. Women are scared of him." Abby listened to their banter, smiling quietly. Moments later, another cousin, Matthias, arrived. He had followed in their grandfather's political footsteps. "Oh, the mayor's here. He must be exhausted from all the work." "Lucas, you're such a clown," Matthias muttered. "I'm not like you." "You should be. Life's more fun when you've got lots of chicks." Everyone rolled their eyes as Lucas laughed. "One day," someone warned, "you'll fall hard. Let's see if you still laugh then." The rest of the day was filled with joy and laughter in the Saldivar mansion. As the party ended, Abby yawned. James noticed and quickly picked her up in his arms. "Hey, I can walk. A goddess like you deserves to be pampered." "Ugh, you're such a flirt. When have I ever lied about your beauty?" He laid her down gently on the bed and kissed her forehead. "Good night, beautiful." "Good night, handsome." The next morning, Abby woke up early and cooked James a hearty breakfast. Delighted, he left for work with a big smile. "I'll take you out for dinner when I get back," he promised. "Okay, handsome." While James was at the office, Abby spent the day embroidering initials onto the triplets' clothes. "Aiden, Caden, and Hayden," she whispered, smiling as she sewed. She hadn't told James the names yet, but she planned to reveal them over dinner. "Just a few more weeks and I'll see you 3, she whispered to her belly. "I can't wait. I may not be the perfect mom, but I'll love you with everything I have." The babies kicked again. Are you excited too? She laughed softly and went to prepare for James's return. Abby finished preparing everything for dinner, but as the clock struck 6, James was still nowhere to be found. Minutes passed, still no sign of him. She tried calling his phone, but there was no answer. Tita, she asked one of the helpers, has James come home? No, dear. His secretary said he's still at the company, handling something important. Abby nodded slowly, thoughts racing. After a moment of hesitation, she made up her mind. I'll surprise him at the office, she said, clutching the container of food she had lovingly prepared. He'll be surprised for sure. She had never been to his office before. She wanted to do something meaningful, just once. Excuse me, is Mr. James Saldivar here? She asked the front desk secretary upon arriving. Yes, ma'am. He's in a meeting. I can take you up to his office. Thank you. The secretary escorted her to the top floor of the building, then stopped. This is as far as I can go, ma'am. I've got some tasks from Mr. Saldivar. Okay, thank you so much. Now alone in the corridor, Abby took a deep breath and stepped toward the office door. She paused as she noticed it slightly ajar. She froze. Inside, she could see James and his cousin Gabriel standing and speaking in tense voices. You can't be serious, James. What were you thinking? Gabriel said. Let me handle my own plans, Gabriel. I don't need your help. Look at what you've done. You think Aunt Felicia will approve of any of this? Abby's heart pounded as she leaned in, careful not to make a sound. She crept closer, straining to hear. Just answer me honestly, Gabriel demanded. Do you still love her? Yes, James replied. I still love her very much. Abby felt her knees weaken, her breath caught. Was he talking about her? Then why are you doing this? Gabriel asked. Why are you letting another woman believe you have feelings for her? Why lie? You don't understand, James said coldly. I have it all under control. You're unbelievable. Gabriel pointed to a framed photo on the desk, Marie's picture. Abby's chest tightened. Is it Marie? She thought. Is she the one they're arguing about? She stepped closer, her body trembling. If you didn't want my opinion, why ask for my help? Gabriel snapped. I still need your help, James growled, but not your opinion on Abby or Marie. I can't believe you, Jameson Saldivar, Gabriel muttered, disgusted. James's jaw tightened. Inside, Abby could barely hold herself up. Her vision blurred as her eyes dropped to the paper bag in her hand. They were talking about Marie, the woman James still loved, and they were talking about her, Abby, as someone he was just deceiving. So that's why he suddenly changed. So that's what it was. A plan. A trick. She tried to stifle her sobs as she turned away. The echo of their argument haunted her. Gabriel, who was trying to reason with James. James, defending his plan. She staggered backward, her lips trembling, until a sharp pain sliced through her belly. She gasped, and the paper bag dropped to the floor with a thud. Who's there? Gabriel called out. Abby tried to run, but it was too late. A warm liquid trickled down her legs. The office door swung open, and both men stepped out. Abby! James exclaimed in shock. You should have waited at the mansion. I was just about to leave. But he stopped short when he saw the blood pooling at her feet. Oh, God, you're in labor, he said in panic. Don't touch me, she spat, glaring at him with fury. He froze in place, confused by her reaction, but then realization dawned. You heard us. You've been lying to me, she said through clenched teeth. Gabriel turned away, exhaling deeply. I'll call an ambulance. You need to tell her the truth, James. Abby's world crumbled. I thought you changed. I thought you loved me. I thought you saw my worth, as a woman and the mother of your children. But you were just using me, making a fool out of me. James stood speechless as she slapped him across the face. Was it all fake? She demanded. Was everything these past few months fake? He stepped forward. Please calm down. I need to get you to the hospital. You're about to give birth. Don't change the subject, she screamed. Her body was trembling, her voice was hoarse, but her anger burned through the pain. I know I owe you an explanation, but not now, James pleaded. You and the babies are my priority. She clutched the nearby railing, her strength fading as her contractions grew more intense. I'll explain everything later. I swear those were the last words she heard before she collapsed into unconsciousness. James caught her in time, cradling her limp body and yelling for help as they rushed her to the hospital. She's in critical condition, sir, the attending physician said gravely. She's unconscious and showing signs of fetal distress. We need your permission to operate immediately. James didn't hesitate. Do whatever it takes. Save her and the babies. Abby had gone into labor early. The triplets were not due for several weeks, but now they were coming, and they would be premature. Still, by the grace of God, they survived. You're lucky, young lady, Felicia said gently as she sat beside Abby's hospital bed. The babies pulled through. You did well. But Abby didn't smile. Her expression was blank, her eyes empty. It had been several days since she gave birth, yet she couldn't feel joy. She hadn't even spoken to James. The only time she smiled was when she first laid eyes on the babies. After that, nothing. James's betrayal had crushed her. He had played with her heart, fooled her into believing she mattered. I've noticed you're not happy, Felicia said. Is something wrong? Did you and James fight? She didn't know what Abby had overheard. She only knew her son had been distant and distracted since the birth. I know this isn't just about the premature delivery, Felicia pressed gently. There's something more. Abby forced a smile. It's just a small misunderstanding, Tita. Well, you need to fix it, Felicia said. You need strength, for yourself and for the babies. Abby said nothing. James walked in just then, fresh from checking on the newborns. Felicia stood and gave them space, quietly leaving the room. How are you feeling now? He asked. No answer. Please, say something. I want to make sure you're okay. Still, she remained silent. Abby knew herself. One wrong word from him, and she'd fall apart again. She couldn't let that happen. Not now. I know you're angry. I understand, James continued. I don't care if you're furious with me. Just don't bottle it all up. She stared blankly at the far wall. I know you heard everything that day, he said finally, and I know what it must have sounded like. There's no need to explain, Abby cut in coldly. I heard enough. He slumped slightly, her words hitting him hard. I love you, he said quietly. Stop lying, she snapped. The babies are here now. Your need for me is over. You got what you wanted. James was speechless. She continued, I've looked like a fool enough times. I can't trust you again. If you had only taken care of my trust, none of this would have happened. James bowed his head. Give me 4 days, he whispered. After that, I'll explain everything. The truth, even the things you think you already know. She said nothing, but in her heart she had already made up her mind. By the time he was ready to explain, she would be gone. That evening, James walked into a dimly lit storage room, the only light shining on a figure seated in the shadows. It was Marie's father, his former father-in-law, Carlos, the very man responsible for the death of James's father 5 years ago. Well, well, didn't expect you to show up alone, Carlos said, smirking. You're braver than I thought. James didn't respond. He walked forward, his voice cold. I've already given you the money you asked for, in exchange for Marie's final request. You know money's not enough for me, Carlos sneered. You know what I really want. James clenched his fists. You want the Saldivar Company. Carlos grinned. Smart boy. That was always the goal. I married Marie off to you, hoping to become part of your empire. Sadly, she died before I could enjoy the benefits. You thought marrying her off would secure your spot as CEO, but it didn't. I took that role, and now you'll pay for what you did to my father. Carlos's face paled. You don't have proof. I know you ordered the hit on my father. You believed he'd name you as his successor, but when he didn't, you panicked. You're bluffing. No, James said. I know everything. I've been gathering evidence for years, and now I'm turning it all in. Carlos lunged forward. I'll ruin you. I'll tell the world what you did, about you and Marie, about your lies. James laughed coldly. You think anyone would believe you? Just then, the door burst open, and a team of officers entered, along with Gabriel. Carlos's face went pale. You're under arrest, an officer declared. You set me up. You did this to yourself, James said. Carlos fought back, struggling against the cuffs. You won't get away with this. I'll kill you all. Not before you rot in prison, Gabriel replied. Justice has waited long enough. It had been a week since the confrontation at the office, the same day Abby had overheard their argument. Since then, James had put everything in motion. He had suspected Carlos from the beginning. That was why he married Marie, to use her and gain access to her father's secrets. He had never truly loved her. He had only ever loved Abby, but he had been cruel to her, on purpose. He didn't want Carlos to know how important Abby was to him. When Carlos found out anyway, he tried to have Abby killed. That's when James told Gabriel the full plan. They argued over it. Gabriel didn't want him to go too far, but they hadn't realized Abby had overheard them and misunderstood everything. You don't know who I am, Carlos screamed as he was dragged away. My brother's the chief of police. He was, Gabriel corrected. He's been removed for corruption. Carlos's threats faded as the officers hauled him out. Good job, cousin, Gabriel said, clapping James on the shoulder. It's over. Your father finally has justice. James nodded, eyes somber. But one thought burned in his mind. Where was Abby? The news of Carlos Baltazar's arrest exploded across the country the next morning. Everyone was stunned. You should have told me earlier, Felicia said, holding her son tightly. If not, I might have fainted from the shock. But thank God, your father has finally received justice. James nodded silently, scanning the area. Abby was no longer in the hospital bed. Where's Abby? He asked, his brow furrowing. She was just here this morning, Felicia answered. Maybe she stepped out. Wait, I think I heard her say something about leaving. James stiffened. Their eyes met, both widening with sudden realization. Without another word, James turned on his heel and bolted from the room. I have to catch her, Ma. She must be heading to the airport. Check the piers too, just in case, he said breathlessly. Go, son. I'll have someone check the ferry terminals. Hurry. James drove like the wind. Just as he had resolved everything, just as he had cleared the path to tell Abby the truth, she vanished. Abby, please, he muttered under his breath. Pick up the phone. No answer, just silence. Tears threatened as frustration built in his chest. He punched the steering wheel. She can't leave. She can't. Back at the hospital, his cousins tried to help. Noah just called. They haven't seen Abby on the departing ships, Gabriel reported. That means she's still in the city. But where? James groaned, desperation gripping him. She doesn't want to be found. You need to calm down, Gabriel urged. We'll take care of the search. For now, go check on your babies. James didn't argue. As much as he wanted to keep searching, his heart ached to see his children too. When he entered the nursery, what he found left him speechless. Abby was there. She stood beside the incubators, gently watching over the triplets, a soft smile on her face. "Abigail," he whispered, unable to move. She turned, startled, then rushed into his arms and kissed him. "You were here all along?" he asked breathlessly. "I searched everywhere." "I never planned to leave," she said, smiling through her tears. "I've been here since morning. I just missed them too much." James exhaled in relief, finally wiping the sweat from his brow. "Thank God," he said. "I thought I lost you." "That was the plan," she admitted, "but I changed my mind." "What happened?" "I saw the news. I understood everything I heard that day. I realized I was wrong," she whispered. "I shouldn't have said those things. I'm sorry, James." Before she could say more, James wrapped her in his arms and kissed her deeply. "I love you, Abigail," he said. "No one can ever take you from me again." "I love you too," she replied. Of all the decisions she had ever made, staying, for love, for their children, was the one she was most proud of. When she learned about Carlos's arrest and the full truth behind James's past, all her doubts and plans to leave dissolved. James was honest, James was hers, and she was his. "I'll never lie to you again," he promised. "I'll never hide anything from you." Together they turned to the tiny babies behind the glass, watching them sleep. From that day forward, it felt as though the wind itself had shifted. Before they knew it, the triplets had grown, healthy, happy, and thriving. Time passed swiftly, filled with laughter and sleepless nights, but neither James nor Abby would trade it for anything. They got married, a quiet ceremony, filled with genuine joy. Now, content and at peace, they built their life together as a family. "Mom, can we play with Mayan and Knox?" one of the boys asked eagerly. "Of course," Abby replied, smiling warmly. The twins they had just met were their cousins, children of a newly discovered relative, and the boys were already fond of them. "You're the best, Mom, and you're beautiful too," another chimed in as they rushed off. Abby turned and caught James watching her from nearby. "And you," she teased, "why aren't you over there with the others, having fun with your cousins?" "I'd rather be right here," James said, walking over. "Next to you?" She laughed. "You really are head over heels, huh?" His grin deepened. "Have been for a while now." The sound of laughter echoed through the garden. Abby's heart swelled with contentment. There was nothing more she could ask from life. She had been broken, hurt, and misled, but love, truth, and perseverance had led her to this moment. "I've been crazy about you forever, my wife," James whispered. Yes, love had taken them through rough waters, but here they were, whole, together, a family. The end. I hope you enjoyed this story. My name is Mr. Hope. I'll see you tomorrow.